Canadian democracy rocked as federal court invalidates key election results. PM Carney's mandate crumbles. Canada stands at a profound crossroads as the authority and perceived legitimacy of Prime Minister Mark Carney have been dramatically eroded by a series of revelations stemming from the 2025 federal election. What was once presented as a clear victory for Carney's Liberal Party is now a chaotic mess, tainted by errors, inconsistencies, and troubling irregularities that cast a long, dark shadow over the very foundation of Canadian democracy. Mark Carney, often dubbed the accidental Prime Minister, was brought in by the Liberal Party's elite as a technocratic saviour, a figure designed to restore stability and competence after years of decline. His polished image, carefully crafted speeches, and international credentials were meant to project an aura of unwavering confidence. However, that veneer has shattered under the weight of what is being described as his arrogance and the escalating disaster of the recent federal election. The stunning developments in federal court were far from a routine review of electoral practices. They represent the first official acknowledgement that Canada's most recent federal election was not the transparent and fair process Canadians were promised. Instead, the court's findings have revealed a litany of issues that undermine the legitimacy of Carney's narrow victory. The Liberals' ascent to power was predicated on razor-thin victories in critical ridings, victories now tainted by mysterious mail-in ballots, last-minute district flips, and voting anomalies so blatant that even Elections Canada, an institution usually seen as beyond reproach, could not fully dismiss them. Now, with the federal court shining an undeniable spotlight on these systemic failures, the implications are staggering. Recounts, legal challenges, potential reversals of results, and even growing calls for a new election are all on the table. The stakes for the future of Canadian democracy could not be higher. Canadians across the country are grappling with deeply unsettling questions. What kind of democracy declares a winner before all polls are even closed? What kind of election leaves voters from coast to coast, questioning how their ballots vanished, were miscounted, or inexplicably ended up in entirely different electoral districts? The prevailing sentiment among a growing segment of the population is that Mark Carney was not truly elected by the people, but rather installed by a powerful coterie of party insiders desperate to salvage their flagging political fortunes. The mainstream media initially painted Carney as a steady hand, capable of steering the Liberals out of their post-slump decline. Instead, he has presided over an era of unprecedented chaos. With each judicial recount and every mounting legal challenge, the fragile mandate he claimed is visibly disintegrating. Across the country, riding after riding is falling under intense scrutiny. Windsor, once considered a Liberal stronghold, has dramatically flipped. Halton Hills is under investigation for widespread voting irregularities. Montreal faces legal challenges concerning advance ballots and concerning breakdowns in the chain of custody. Perhaps most incredibly, in Vancouver South, a riding that should have been a straightforward outcome, the number of ballots cast inexplicably exceeded the number of registered voters. The public is left to ponder how such a fundamental error could possibly occur. Despite the mounting evidence and the escalating crisis, Prime Minister Carney has maintained a deafening silence. He has chosen to hide behind procedural language, behind the very institutions, including Elections Canada, that are now being shaken to their core by the overwhelming evidence piling up against his administration. In stark contrast, opposition leader Pierre Poilievre has emerged as a vocal and accessible figure. While Carney retreats into silence and bureaucratic obscurity, Poilievre has actively engaged with Canadians, hosting town halls, listening to their concerns, and publicly decrying the systemic failures of the 2025 election. He has minced no words, openly labelling the situation as a bureaucratic disaster that has irrevocably shattered public trust in Canada's democratic process. Canadians, far from being dismissed as conspiracy theorists or fringe radicals, are responding en masse. They are ordinary citizens who intuitively know that something is profoundly wrong, who feel a deep sense of betrayal, and who are now vociferously demanding answers. The irregularities and mistakes uncovered thus far are not minor clerical errors that can be easily explained away. In recount-ridden ridings like Halifax and Quebec, entire batches of ballots were reportedly shipped to incorrect districts. Postal codes were mixed up, advanced ballots went missing, or lacked proper identifying marks. This is not simply voter error. It is an administrative collapse on a national scale. Then came the bombshell. The federal court not only called for recounts, but directly stripped Mark Carney of his own parliamentary seat. The man who was supposedly destined to lead Canada into a new era of stability and progress does not even possess a confirmed riding. The public is left to ponder how a prime minister can effectively lead a nation when his own legitimacy in parliament is under such profound question. Is this the strong mandate Canadians were so confidently promised? Behind the scenes, the Liberal Party is reportedly in disarray. Strategists are scrambling in a desperate attempt to contain the escalating damage. Members of Parliament in vulnerable ridings are facing an onslaught of angry constituents. Leaks from within the party itself suggest a growing dissent, with even rank-and-file members questioning whether Carney's leadership and the party's handling of the election have amounted to a catastrophic misstep. It is crucial to recall how Mark Carney initially ascended to power. He was not chosen by the Canadian electorate in a national vote, but rather anointed by party elites who believed his polished image and international credentials would quell rising discontent. However, instead of delivering stability, Carney has presided over what is arguably the most contested, chaotic, and credibility-destroying election in modern Canadian history. Elections Canada, the very institution mandated to safeguard democracy, has also come under intense scrutiny. Their spokespersons have attempted to downplay the discrepancies as minor, but for the millions of Canadians